Estás escuchando Sin Censura con Vicente Serrano.
Para que vea que hasta los compañeros le dan carrilla a uno y uno tiene que aguantar estas cosas. Pero bueno, vamos a ponernos serios porque hay una mujer, además muy joven en nuestros estudios. Le agradezco que nos acompañe. Es copresidenta de la organización SOS en la Universidad de DePaul y es parte de un consejo de organizaciones que velan por los derechos humanos, sobre todo cuando hablamos de refugiados sirios y de esta campaña perversa, por qué no decirlo, contra estos refugiados que huyen de la guerra y que ahora tienen que defenderse porque son tratados como terroristas por un mundo que no entiende tal vez la situación que están viviendo. Voy a tratar de hacer esta entrevista en inglés. Le pedía que me ayudara con su español a Mariam Saleh. Y gracias, Mariam, por acompañarnos.
Gracias for having me here today. I'm excited.
Thank you for coming and thank you for raising this issue because we're very quick to stereotype.
Judge. Exactly.
To judge people that we don't know.
Exactly.
What's going on with this issue of the refugees?
So in terms of Syria, there are only 4 million refugees that are living in Syria and 11 million refugees that have been displaced.
4 million Syrians are living in Syria
and then 11 million
are fleeing.
And have been displaced, basically. And that's over half the population of Syrian people. So this has happened within just the last 4 years of the Assad regime that has been in power for over 40 years, in Syria. And so these people are fleeing from the same radicals that we are claiming they are, which just goes to show how our kind of fear-driven mentality takes over. And it's sad to see when we talk about politics. So in terms of the U.S., there has recently been a bill that was passed by the House of Representatives, Bill 4038, and it's basically an American Act Against Foreign Enemies, which prohibits or makes it very hard for Syrian and Iraqi descent refugees to come to America. And so we have this, Obama tried to make this quota where he would take in 10,000 refugees, but that's what's being debated right now.
Mariam, let me ask you, and let's be serious about this debate like the politicians should.
We should.
Do we have a valid fear when we talk about this massive number of people fleeing a country that is known unfortunately, by their radicalized people? Do we have a valid fear of saying, no, we shouldn't just open the doors, and we need to have a process if they want to come to the United States because of this possibility that terrorists wanting to come in those groups?
Sure, that's a valid question, but I could ask you the same thing about recent things that have been happening. I could ask you the same thing for Caucasian males that have been shooting up schools in public places. How many times has that happened in just the last decade? The amount of school shootings and public shootings that have been taking place in this country has dramatically increased. And what is being done about that is my question. We talk about foreign enemies all the time, but we're quick to judge in the sense that we don't look at our own situations, our own faults here.
As a matter of fact, yesterday I was saying what happened in San Bernardino is a terrorist act.
Exactly.
And it's an American citizen. We know that his descent is of the Middle East, but he's an American citizen.
Exactly.
And we're quick to denounce when something happens on the other side of the world as a terrorist act, but when it happens in our soil, we try to find excuses.
Exactly. We do this thing where it's us versus the other, versus looking at it in a factual manner. If you just look at the Paris shootings, I know I've had to talk a lot about that recently. And as horrifying as the situation was, and as much as I repent for the citizens there, it's important to look at the facts. there was an invalid Syrian passport that was found. And they did find that the people that were attacking were actually Belgium and French citizens, And so while there are those potential ties to ISIS or, ISIL or the Assad regime, whatever have you, like, that's something that we cannot do as an American citizens based on our values.
And this debate, this issue should be important for the Latino community in this country, because we're labeled as, you have heard, criminals, rapists, murderers, what else?
Yeah, it's everything. It's, there's we think there's a drug cartel that could happen here. We're scared of them coming into America, and we're trying to talk about the wall that we're potentially going to build. And I think it's sad, because if you look at the labor in this country, you guys have done so much. You guys are the heart of the country. The immigrants are the heart of the country.
So you're saying we should stop seeing us versus the other.
Exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying. I think that if we just look at our own Statue of Liberty, I was thinking about this the other day, it's supposed to represent refuge and welcoming to immigrants all around the world. This country was founded by immigrants and refugees. So the fact that we're going to try to prohibit them from coming to a country that represents that is very ironic. And it's sad to see our own, legislation being passed, because that's not American. People want to say, oh, we have to protect Americans, but that goes against everything that we believe in.
You said that you are part of this organization, but it's not religious.
Right.
But religion has to part a role in this debate.
Sure.
When we talk about Islamic radicalization, when we talk about religions that we don't know, we're also quick to judge and say that, these people that practice this religion are terrorists, and that should be addressed too.
That should be addressed. So just personally, I was raised by Palestinian Muslim American immigrants who were once refugees, and just having an upbringing with Islam and personally affiliating with it, I can tell you right now, ISIS and every radical Islamic group you see does not represent Islam at all. And it's a way for twisted people to twist something very essentially harmless and peaceful into something horrible, and that you can do that with the Bible. You can do that with every holy book if you really think about it. And if you look in between the lines, there are questionable things that could be twisted. So if we're going to talk about religion, it is something that should be addressed. But I think that, again, it's just a way for racism and, religious hatred to prevail in this country. And it's, again, tying back to the us versus other, rather than thinking about it logically and actually reading.
En nuestros estudios, Mariam Saleh, co-presidente de la organización SOS de la Universidad de DePaul, y es parte de un consejo de organizaciones que velan por los derechos humanos en Chicago, hablando con nosotros de los casos de los refugiados sirios y bueno, de este debate que también he comentado con ustedes de cómo evitar los estereotipos, porque cuando nos subimos a un avión y vemos a alguien con un turbante ya nos da cierto terror, nos da cierta desconfianza, y no podemos permitir estas situaciones. Mariam, what are you guys doing to probably educate America or Chicago about the refugee crisis situation? And how do we start in the Latino community, in your opinion, to avoid those stereotypes and avoid this low debate?
Sure. So this is actually a really new organization, Students Organized for Syria, SOS. It's only at 6 other universities, and it's a pilot group at DePaul. We have a lot of exciting things going. We've already done a lot. This past week was the end to the Stashes for Syria campaign, which we were able to raise hundreds upon thousands of dollars for Syrian refugee children in Syria to help them survive the winter by providing them with care packages. And Team Chicago won second place. They won first place last year. So we were able to all pull together for that. Currently, I'm organizing my first protest with a good friend in the group. And it's to be held on Sunday from 1 to 3 at the office of the governor downtown. And so basically it's called
The
Refugees
Thompson Center?
Welcome. Yeah, the Thompson Center. So it's called Refugees Welcome, and that's basically what we're doing. We're just going to voice our concerns as American citizens and try to peacefully explain the situation of Syria to everyone here in America, and try to have us like remember our core values.
Y este caso es importante en Illinois porque hay que recordar que el gobernador republicano que tenemos, Bruce Rauner, se ha unido a este grupo de gobernadores republicanos para decir, no, vamos a cerrar las puertas, no vamos a permitir la entrada de refugiados sirios. I was telling you, how do we start in the Latino community to educate ourselves? Because I have heard many voices saying, how can we support these refugees coming in when we have a situation, an immigration situation in our own community?
And that's exactly what my answer was going to be. I was going to say to use our struggles and tie them together. As different as they may seem, they're very similar. You know, you guys are struggling to lead a life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness in America. That's exactly what the Syrian refugees are doing. As a Palestinian, you know, people ask me, why do you care about Syria? And I tell them it's because my people have the same struggle. We all, at the end of the day, are in it for the same thing. And I think we can use our struggles to really like come together and remember that stereotypes and fear-driven mentality get us nowhere. And I really do believe we would not be the greatest country in the world if it wasn't for our refugees, our immigrants, and our values as American citizens.
Before you go,
do
me a favor, try to do it in Spanish.
In Spanish?
You speak fluent Spanish.
Hablo español, pero no es bueno como tú.
Me da mucho gusto que nos acompañes, que vengas, que compartas tus visiones como estudiante, como alguien cercana al problema y que pues continúe esta lucha de educación. Yo creo que tenemos mucho que hacer también nosotros en la comunidad hispana. Thank you very much for taking the time to come to our studios.
Gracias. Thank you for having me.
And I hope this is the first one of many opportunities that we have to talk about these issues.
I hope so as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Mariam Saleh, hablando de este caso de los refugiados sirios, espero que ustedes le hayan encontrado también el interés y la importancia de abrir estas conversaciones, aunque sean en inglés y aunque batallemos un poquito, ahí en donde usted me está escuchando, en Michigan, en Wisconsin, en Illinois, en Indiana, en Iowa, o en donde estén conectados a través de YouTube en Sin Censura Media. Gracias por permitirme tomarme esta libertad de hacer estas entrevistas en inglés, con mi inglés bueno o malo, pero que hablemos de estas situaciones y que otras comunidades vean que también nosotros estamos interesados en abrir el diálogo. Gracias, Mariam. Continuamos aquí en Sin Censura.
De 8 a 12, tiene una cita para participar en el único espacio que le presenta las noticias sin pelos en la lengua. Sin Censura, con Vicente Serrano.